Test, test, test. Checking the audio levels here. Not getting anything quite yet. Oh, there we go. Okay. All right. So we can get right to it tonight. Tonight's theme: camels. Why not? Camels are awesome. I've done a couple of these before. It's been quite some time. I know I've done this one, and this one. So I may want to approach these other ones with the rider. I think that would be interesting. You know, lots of interesting stuff going on, and form language to simplify and figure out. This one's interesting. So yeah. Without further ado, isn't that kind of redundant to say that? Isn't ado like without any more? I don't remember exactly what it means, but I think the phrase without further ado is one of those like double, you're like saying it twice, kind of. Alright, so I'm going to block in these shapes here because I find this interesting. I'm going to try to correlate some of these shapes too. So that might be a little too S curve there. All right. I'm going to swap my color here and play with these shapes a little more. Really trying to simplify the painting here. Look for these interesting shape language. I think this whole thing needs to be a bit smaller, but I like how it flares up. Like down here with the legs there, this flares out, and this flares out in an upward direction. I think that's kind of cool. Gesture of this with the head there. Start separating a couple of these areas here. I guess there's a few more shapes to bring in. And that head's going to probably need to be smaller. It'll be fine. We'll be fine for now. It's like it looks like a camel wearing a skirt. You know, it's got this skirt thing. So we're gonna fix that. But I like what this shape is doing here. You can simplify that to lead the eye, you know, away. It's almost like everything's kind of emanating from the center. It's kind of neat. Okay, so now let's go ahead and work in some of our negative shapes here. I want to be careful not to get too aggressive with that silhouette there. I kind of want to maintain that. Maintain that gesture. Okay. Yeah, I don't want to get too crazy with this either, because there's multiple legs here that we're lining up, and I don't want to try to do it all in one go, because then what would end up happening is you try to get that shape in the background just so to match what you're seeing in the positive shapes, and you stop seeing the negative shape there, which is really, in an abstract way, it's giving us a lot of information. That's probably good. Yeah, I should apologize for the late start today. I mean, it is kind of par for the course with these Wednesday night streams. However, tonight was much more of a scramble getting ready. Putting these boxes together for Fantastic Tanks. There is some exciting contest type things coming up. So putting these together and trying to get a few of the last shipments out for Christmas. So that being said, even this stream, I want to make sure that I do these rain or shine, but sometimes there are demands on time that will limit them, which is funny because I always take way longer on these than I intend to anyway. Like, oh yeah, okay, we're done. I think we'll wrap it up here, and then like an hour and a half later, actually getting around to that. Alright, so I'm bringing in this mid-tone. It actually might be a little bit too light. We've got it on a separate layer though, so we can tweak all that. And I shouldn't get too fussy with it. I should just get it in there and look for those major forms. Major, by forms I mean major shapes of light. Just getting blocked in. And I should probably transition pretty soon here to color, because it's just going to drive me crazy if I'm, well, I don't know, maybe it would be a good exercise for me to go back to grayscale. You know, I jump into color so much, and it's I like it, but part of the problem with that is you get comfortable with it, you end up with these, you end up with images that maybe could be pushed a bit further in terms of their in terms of the way the value is handled and composed. So I have made it a habit for a long time of just jumping straight into color. And I used to do this kind of thing where you build it all in black and white and grayscale, and then do some colorizing tricks and so forth. And obviously that still has carried on a little bit. You know, I don't necessarily land on the colors that I intend to right away. I'm okay with going back and forth with the palette and playing with different ideas and then locking it in near the end of the process. That being said, I typically just jump into color because there's value relationships in hue that sometimes it's just easier to be upfront about it and jump right into it rather than swing around from you know, a nice value study or value composition, and then just to find that the colors that you're choosing have that inherent value to them that you'll have to shift everything, you know, kind of recompose it. Or you'll have to make decisions about color that might feel a little bit unnatural because you're trying to match, you're trying to maintain your value sketch. Anyway, so those are the reasons that I would typically just jump right into color, because then you don't have to kind of circle back around and lose a lot of the time that you may have lost in that translation between value and color. But that being said, I recognize that my work could be a lot better if I went back to some of these basic practices and sharpened them up a bit. So maybe that would be a good idea for me. That head might be a little bit too big. Again, I like this this repeated motif of the shapes kind of emanating from the center. And so the hat, you know, has that same kind of angle. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, that's just, you know, seems like I'm talking nonsense. I'll just draw over here. So what I'm talking about is this. So you see how those forms echo each other. And then some of the other things that I'm playing with here are here, so trying to get these to correlate to each other. You know, this isn't much of anything other than just trying to get that form there. But you'll want to try to get some of these things to lead the eye into each other, and then you can break them up a little bit too if you need to. So like I'm looking at my reference, and he's got like this green, well, teal looking blanket, and that breaks up the form. It's like there's a saddle or something. Here comes up and out. And we'll have it kind of peek through here, so that maybe there's like straps or whatever here. And we'll have to manage the value to get all of those things to read as their own components. Might clean up some of this, get that a little more. There's a texture to this, to the fur. It's got like a, I don't know if it's mud or if it's spots on it, but it's pretty cool looking. Anyway, that's got to be a decision will have to be made on that, whether to follow that through and render that well, or to edit it out. I think this thing, I'm not sure what's going on there. It's got a weird, interesting shape to the head back there. Here's the eye right here. But it's also got this, this thing back here, like a divot. And then he should be much smaller and farther back, so I'm actually gonna, I'll just do that all in one go. First, I'm gonna see if I want to drop that back. I think I'll just keep it as is. I'm gonna merge all those together, duplicate just to store our previous version. Take the dude here and X, Control V, and it just needs to be a little smaller there, because his legs, obviously his legs were looking way too small. There's a bit of foreshortening on them, and then he's actually elevated a little bit over the, you know, so again with that curve there. There we go. I think that'll work. hand. Other hand's over here. A little bit of information underneath that arm there. And he has like this armband, you know, in the reference. That's right there. So that's what's going on there. And maybe we need to just show some lines or something to associate that, or a fold. I really like those lines. Yeah. Like a little bit of this coming up. That's like his blanket there. Look at that. It's wrapped around his leg here. Get that kind of white area from his shirt. I'll move that over because it was misplaced in my initial sketch there. And we're going to block in some little shadow shapes for this blanket quilt thing he's got going on. Get this hand there. Probably have to lighten that up. It's in the light tones there. Get these legs sorted out a little bit here. This boot. It's right there. Actually might be a little bit higher. And casting a shadow here. So I want to show that. Make sure we get this shape right. We need to cut that in. Okay. Let's see. Put some light up on top. Here. It's a little bit too much on the light. He's got these black pants, and so they wouldn't. They're not going to catch as much light, but I'm going to get it in so they can see what's going on there. So this whole thing's got to come up higher, and I think I need to show this stretch from the knee. So the knee's right here, and then it stretches fabric from there. So I think I need to show that. mix in around here. So we soften up all of those areas of the camel's neck, so forth. We can show some of these form changes right here. So bring this light down, and then it comes down and around. There's some bounce light there, and then this front leg here. That's the one that looks like it has mud on it or something. But that has a kind of delineated value. So it pops away from the rest of it, or from this neck area here at least. Okay, I think I gotta address this mouth area because there's a lot going on there that doesn't need to be. So erase a bunch of that out. And this black outline there, that's not helping us. We're going to start cleaning those out. I'm not sure if we want to do this as well. Keep that motif going in this shapes. Nah, we'll come back to that. But for now, this needs to get erased out a bit there, because there actually isn't too much data form information going on back there in the reference. Actually don't have the feet in the reference, so I might have to come to some others to get that. Let's clean this up just a little bit more. Clean this out here. I don't mind having a shadow there, but we'll probably bring it back in as something a little more subdued. You know, obviously that black is that's aggressive. You know, there's a style for that, but I don't know that that's what we really want to do with this, especially given that it's, you know, this kind of hot desert light looking thing, kind of theme. I'm gonna have to look at these. I remember camel feet being just these weird alien things, but it's been a while since I had a look at that. trying to get these folds of the neck there. This whole bit, I think, could be darkened. Bring in some little wedges of shadow to imply that there are these straps and so forth, holding everything together. This strap in the reference actually comes out a little bit more, has a more of a belly to the creature. And then there's another shadow wedge back here, which shows us that this, you see I got that triangle, these triangles going into each other, shows us that this form is in front of that, this form is in front of that, it's very little real estate on the canvas, but it's giving us this information that's helpful to our composition. Lock that in a little bit more. Bring this up. A little more of this light down here. Light catching the fur on the rim. A little bit of rim light. That's what they call that. Okay. Alright, let's get this head figured out, because these are that's a bit excessive. I may even just go ahead and go to liquefy. And all that's got to go. Up. Don't want to liquefy too much because I don't want to lose that gesture that we were working on earlier. We'll see how that does. Yeah. We'll take it. Alright, let's paint in some of these straps and so forth. So I'm squinting a little bit here. I'm going to go ahead and bring a bunch of this value up. Separate these shapes. Camels just have this look about them, you know? Like they're happy, maybe a little smug. What can you do? Anyway, I'm trying to bring this guy up in value. So we have clear areas of material differences. So like, so the body of the camel is gonna have a different base tone than his shirt, his pants, all the equipment, the tackle, whatever you want to call that stuff, harnesses. I'm gonna have to look at a camel's head, figure out what in the world's going on there. Is it just like the shape, the ridge back there, then the eye protrudes a little bit? I don't know, that's what it seems like. I think I'm gonna diminish that a little bit. Alright, this here. Skin tone, or rather skin value, needs to come up just a little bit in the light areas. It might be too much. And what's throwing me for sure is, it's a very warm tone in the reference, but we're working in a desaturated blue here, like a blue-gray. And so that's going to throw those skin tones for a loop. this up a bit there. Ooh, okay. In the reference, he's got this stick he's holding. Want that end to flare out a little bit, but just subtle enough. Okay. I wonder if we can add some surface texture to this whole thing. Play with that a little bit. Too bright. So I've just got a little bit of a fur brush here. It's pretty subtle. Gonna bring in just a little bit of texture. And generally, though I'm not doing it at this moment, I use a brighter color for this. That's where the hair would be begin to be lit up, of course. That's why we would see that texture, because it's raised off the surface and catching some light. I think I need to correlate some of these shapes here a little better. And this area here is actually in shadow, so drop that back. getting a little too direct with that. I want to get this there we go. I want to get this shape here around the nose a little cleaner. Alright, let's zoom out on that one. Alright, so we're going to do a couple things here. I'm going to grab this whole thing, duplicate it, merge all that, apply that layer mask. We can go to liquefy. I'm just going to work on this on a larger level here. I think I want to reshape some of these things. Uh-oh. Oh, there we go. Thought we crashed for a second there, but we live on. Okay, bring this up. Out. Again, I want to be careful here because each of these color notes, or rather value notes, are it's form information, so I don't want to be too aggressive with that and lose them. With this foot, we'll go with that. So then those changes. The original, not a huge change, but then we're going to clean up some of these things. Go back to a more aggressive brush there. Okay, let's see. We'll darken this down a little bit because it's probably going to get some soft light, off of this form that's above it. Soft shadows, rather. I think I'll do a similar thing here, where I've still got these shadow shapes here, but I think I'm going to go ahead and have a little bit of a pass through there. And bring in some soft shadowing underneath this blanket that we scattered. And what I'm considering here is how this shape might go in and out, right? Like it's behind the leg here, but then comes in front of the leg there. I don't want to be too extreme with that, so. Okay. Bring in your shadow. Something like that. Might flatten it out a little bit. But this is all going to come forward. What are we doing here? Computer. Okay. I'm going to add a little bit of color, but I don't want to get too caught up with that. I think getting to the point here where we should wrap up on this. Well, normally we go a lot longer, but I've got quite a bit of fantastic tanks, shipping and prep stuff to do tonight. So, got to get it all in before Christmas is over. We'll just throw a few colors in there and see where it goes. Oh, I'm sorry, I just accidentally schwacked the mic there. Hit that really hard. That probably was very unpleasant on the other hand. Alright, let's see, maybe some blues for the light area, or for the reflected light shadow. And some tan for the downward facing planes if they're gathering light from the ground. Alright, let's see our camel. He's got a little bit of green in there. Weirdly enough. We'll just drop it in a few spots, and then we'll paint over it. A little bit of some reddish color in the dark recesses. Back to that yellow. Bringing in some of that bounce light. This is on a hard light layer, by the way, so we want to be a little careful with it. Don't go too aggressive. Getting back to that point where we're going to have to dial things back again. Because again, so light in these shadow areas here. I'm picking up some subtle blues in here, in these shadows. Blocking them in not such a subtle way, but looking to get some of that bounce light color, ambient light from the sky into our tones here. Hmm. I'm just gonna bring back in some of this rim light that we lost somewhere along the way. I think we can bring some color into the pants. Just something really subtle to pick up the bounced light. And the boot. Just gonna make a few adjustments to that shape. Okay, dial back that color. Actually kind of like it full rich like that. You know, something we can do here if we want to get a whole base on this thing. Let's go layer, new fill, solid color. You pick your kind of that fill that you want to add, pin it to your character. You can do overlay, or you know, find a blend mode that works well with the tone that you're trying to blend in. So I am thinking hard light or vivid. I think vivid light. We can play with this a little bit. I'm squinting a bit as I'm doing this to make sure that I'm not completely losing my value delineations. Okay, I think a couple adjustments to the background, and we get ourselves kind of in the ballpark. Oops, need a new layer. There we go. Not what I intended to do, although it does make me think we can work with that. Let's go farther down like that. We'll come back and do something with that. We'll do another one here. Too purple, so we'll go a little lighter, shift it toward that kind of sandy gray there. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Now we need to do greenish off sand color here. And what else do we want? That's good for now. We'll take this one back up and make some constraints on it. Oops. Bring those back in. So I'm holding Alt, well, I'm holding Shift to add more in, and then Alt to cut it away when I want to do that. Okay, that's going to be it's going to be our mask there, and of course we can add or take away from this. This is a shadow layer if you hadn't figured out where this was going. Let's go with this. This will be a little stronger. Stronger brush for the job. Going a little bit thinner here. So there's this like a rise above him in the image. And we can play with that, how we want all that to work. But now we can hit X and bring in some areas for the light. It hits these rocks below it. Let's see. This layer can come up to here. We'll erase a bit of that out. Gonna do that again. Went too far with my undo. Whoops. Photoshop lag there. Here's our sand in the distance layer. This one here, I'll probably go ahead. Let's darken this up. Do a little bit of blending in that layer. Just adding in a little bit of variation to this background, but I want to make sure that it's actually making sense here, not just random for random's sake. Okay, now this, let's do like darker color, maybe hard light may work. Yeah, we'll go with hard light. And then on this background layer here, and we'll constrain this to our shadow. We got to bring in some more details and stuff. So we'll set this to a color burn. That would be exciting. Just bringing in something to talk about on these rocks. Just a little bit of texture, some variation in hue, and then we'll bring in some warm bounce light here. Okay, then let's see. We can erase out little bits of this because it seems to match the form. draw in some cracks or something that would make it kind of interesting. So I'm going to bring our shadow back. Switch this to normal. Bring that down in value. Just kind of muting everything. Okay. So I'm going to switch over to these wild brushes here. Dragon brush would be good. And with this, we'll set this to maybe multiply. And we'll start bringing in these rock cracks in the rocks. This is one of my happy brushes. One of the brushes that makes me happy. And it is not currently in any of the packs, so I am thinking about putting one out there with this brush in it. It would be more like special use brushes. That would be the idea for them. I'm on multiply, right? Yeah, so I guess if I switch this to like hard line, what do I want to do? Multiply is fine, I guess, but now I'm thinking I want to have a little bit of a catch in there, so a light that's, you know, on the edge of these rocks here. And now I'm going to move those around with the smudge brush. Now the one thing with this area here, kind of like this, I know what it's doing on its own. And this one, I think I need to perhaps change this mask here. So if I apply this layer mask, I like the simplicity of that. Though, here's what we'll do. We'll make a mask. Let me switch over to something fairly aggressive. Maybe that one. Start erasing out a bunch of these areas. Switch that up. we get this smudge brush with high strength, and if you just take a quick stroke with that, you know, there's no opacity or anything like that, and then we're just breaking up that edge a little bit. Let's see. And this guy. Yeah. Break that up at all. I'm not wild about what these colors are doing down here. So let me see if we have another way to approach that. Soft light, that's alright. I think if we go with hard light and then we start playing with some values, that might give us some hope. Let's go to our yellows and reds, so we're going to expand this out to the reds. Make sure we don't get those purples there. So we can see we've isolated that. And then we just bring it down. And adjust it till it is doing what it's supposed to do. And then we'll do the same thing with these purples here. So we'll go blues and magentas. So we'll grab these magentas, blues. Make sure we got it. Boy howdy, did we ever. Alright, so now let's bring that down to the darker regions. And in our reference, this actually does still have a little bit of that red, but it's so dark. I wonder why this is not darkening that up. Maybe if it's hard light, it's not affecting the that lighter background enough. And this portion really needs to be like dark. So like that. We'll see if we can play with this blend modes again. And just go normal, and we can dial it in. Sometimes you just gotta go manual. too complicated with all that. And this just isn't quite getting dark enough, you know, to meet the reference. Well, all right, guess we'll live with that. And let's add in our overlays, color balance, all that good stuff. So we get our shadow there. I'll just leave that as it was. Go new overlay. I'm gonna go with a maybe something like this. This guy, it's got a little bit of a texture to it. Oh, that's right. I'm on the smudge brush. No wonder that wasn't working. So we gotta wait for Photoshop to figure out what just happened. Come on. This is well, this is the direct result of using a brush that is not intended to be a smudge brush at a super high resolution. So I think this brush has a very very tight, repetitive stamp. So I mean, it's repeating the brush head many more times than the other brushes do, which normally is fine, but since we're in the smudge brush, that seems to have locked things up. So let's give this a minute. We'll see if Photoshop decides to catch up. The ironic thing is that there was nothing on that layer, so nothing really is happening anyway. There we go. Alright, so let me go back to smudge brush and select the one that's supposed to be used. That's this one here. And then we'll go to the paintbrush and select that one we were looking at just a second ago, this guy, and see what it does. Yeah, not textured enough for what I want to do. What about this one? It's got some texture to it. This one, of course, but it's not exactly how I want to address this. That one, it could actually work for the rocks back here. I'm getting those in the ballpark. Okay, all this up here is a bit brighter. in the background, and the leading edge of this rock formation also is kind of has that, catching that light, reflecting it toward us. Switch back to this. Is this the one that gave us that? Let's see what we want to do with our sky color here. Go more intense, less intense. Kind of like that there. And we'll swap back to see what it looks like. A little grayer, a little brighter. Where's our shadow on this thing? This right there. Okay, so we're gonna blend that over as well. I'm pretty sure this shadow would be a very hard shadow throughout, regardless of really how far it's moving away from the base, shadow base. Just because of that really harsh direct sunlight. Let's grab this whole character. And we'll start dealing directly with some of this. I actually like to leave a fair amount of messiness, but sometimes it does not work with what's going on in the background. Sometimes, like I'm playing with here, sometimes you add some messiness. Didn't like that. I like catching that white edge here, this light edge here. Might accentuate that just a Bring some of these colors all the way up, you know, so that they're not completely just fading into black there. We don't really want black on the silhouette. The black is to show shadow. And you wouldn't have a shadow right on the edge necessarily. Certainly not in this situation. Okay. Tighten that space up a little bit. Maybe we'll looks like we could just bring that whole area up. And instead of having those combined, yeah, that looks better. Let's see. Tighten this up a little. Back down that shadow. And we'll, oops, why is that so red? We don't want that. This might go underneath. That might look better with that overlay beneath it rather than above. And we can do another overlay for some darker values here. And this time I'll go with this airbrush with a splatter on it. A little smaller with these in the background there. I'm going to smooth these out a little bit. So I brought this in, you know, I want to shift these hues, make the colors a little bit richer. That's probably too much. And I want to also be careful to delineate regions, you know, that we're not correlating the background too much with the foreground. You know, they get a slightly different treatment to add this sense of space, even though we have really pretty little to work with in terms of space. You know, this Camel's kind of up against this little plateau there. I don't know, this is, for me, this is the fun part. It's like you're sorting out these sort of things. I mean, it can get tedious. It's like the end of it all, but still, it's where things start to really make sense, and all of those decisions early on are beginning to pile up to have a nice readable image. And you also get to play a little bit at this stage. You know, this is where you're not just, you know, you've done your observation of the subject and how you maybe want to approach communicating it. But now you're just taking some liberties with it. I liked that one there. In the reference, there's like these little holes. Like maybe little critters live down there or something. All manner of fun things. And so I'm just going to go ahead with just let me grab a brush, maybe like that Sinful Onion or something. One of these guys right here. I don't know how I got that name. Actually, I do. It's kind of a reference to Thomas Beekner, who's a painter. He's a painter in Corning. Or rather, was a painter in Corning. And he would do all these still life images and give them these names and narratives like that. Anyway, what I'll be doing here is attempting to homogenize some of this. You know, we did a lot of work to give ourselves variation, to kind of bring this area forward, push the background farther back, and now I can come in and just kind of custom tailor some of these edges and so forth, you know, so that they aren't so linear, you know, too perfect, right? Like here, for example, there's in the reference that this rock pattern kind of picks up a little bit here, catches some light. It's not just this one immediate break. And actually the rocks have this, a little bit of this overhang feature to them, which is interesting. I don't know if we'll get that in there or not, but we get a little bit of it here, you know, where these come down. And to show that this one loses it here, but if we brought that up maybe to here, then we could show that they're that's not exactly what I want. I'm going to make this brush larger and let it do a little bit more of the work, because that's kind of a ridiculous thing I'm doing there, trying to, you know, paint every single little rock. That's a waste of time. So we'll grab the color, we'll make the brush a little bigger and let it do the textural work. Do a little bit here behind it. Maybe we tailor that just a little bit to be a little more flattering to the form of the camel. Flatter those camel forms. Didn't know that's what you were signing up for when you became a concept artist. I might erase away a little bit here and just see kind of what happens. Well, I think that's probably about sufficient. We can pat ourselves on the back, knowing that we painted a thing, right? Or can we? Can I stop? I don't know. I feel like it needs little tufts of grass down there or something, you know? Let's try it. This is the way. Probably thinking, Eric, concept artist with a brush pack. Where's the grass brush? Everyone's got a grass brush. I don't know. Don't know what to tell you. There is a brush that I use for grass, but I honestly don't remember what it is. I haven't done that kind of thing in a little bit. I might do loose bristles or those tri-split, something like that. Let's do that. Not quite green, but darker than that. What is a concept artist without a tree brush and a grass brush? You know, must-haves. Lime is too much, obviously. And then let's try to tame it all down. Bring in some shadows, a little softer. Erase a bit of that out. Maybe. Something like that. This might be getting a little aggressive here. Tone that back. It's not trying to be the star of the show. Same here. Maybe we'll tone that back a little bit. Toning grass. This is why we're here. Is it? Okay. I think one thing that's interesting, when you zoom out like this, then you start to see, like, okay, I could add a little bit right here or right here that would help communicate the scene compose the scene a little better, maybe. So a little here. So see how that just kind of brings. Now we'd have to clean it up so it actually represents something, but see how that just kind of brings everything into those feet there. Actually, that's kind of nice. I'll soften up some of that grass. It's not super eye-popping and distracting. Okay, let me zoom out again. There was another spot there that I thought would be interesting to soften up. So like maybe take this and bring it down to here. Just a little bit. Maybe all the way through behind there. Let's see what that looks like. Just a second here. Zoom out. And we'll go. Zoom in here. So I'm deciding whether it's better to soften this shadow up. Maybe take this edge right up to it, like that. And maybe make that like a little grass. Yeah. Let's see. I should back up and see if that makes it any better or not. So now we're designing these shadows to make the image more interesting. Or something. I think there needs to be something going on, you know, and I would probably come back and do that a different day if I were going to do it, because I think I've got things that I need to take care of tonight. But I like the idea of adding some kind of more of a story element to it. I mean, there's obviously, it's a dude riding a camel, so you know, there's motion, adventure, that sort of thing going on in it. There's a relationship between the character and the animal and the environment. But it would be nice to add a few more things to, you know, little clues that tell you that something's happening here, you know. He's waiting for somebody, or there's some artifact here, something he's guarding. You know, all that could be kind of fun. Okay. I think this is probably a good place to stop. Sufficient for tonight. So let me go full screen on this so you can see what we did. Get rid of that. Let me get some of the... I'll move up here. This isn't the full composition, but at least you'll be able to see more of the details this way. And if I zoom in all the way, so let's see, what's 100% here? This is a huge document, so 100% is right there. And you can see the brushes work in there. And actually, really a fun thing to do, if I'm going to take this to print, may as well talk about this. Hopefully I don't... Yeah, we can do it quickly. So if I wanted to let's see, look at the camel's head here. Take this to print and add some interest to it. So the first thing that I would do is I would flatten the whole thing. So Control A, Control Shift C, and Control V. And then I'm going to go to convert for smart filters, and then sharpen it. So that way, if I resize everything, then all of that stays as crisp as it can be. And usually I'll change this setting here. So if you open it up on the sharpen tab here, you can change the amount of the effect. You know, typically like the old school way to do it would be to be in the 30s to 40s, and that usually gives you a nice preserves your details nicely when you change scale. But one of the things that you can do now that it's in the smart filters, and you could do this before just by copying the layer, but you can change the blend mode. So you can just say, if it's the darker color, then override, you know. And so you can refine these edges in a much more subtle way just by using the blend mode rather than you know, opacity. So darken, for example, it does give you that little bit of a little added sharpness, but it's not overpowering by any means. So anyway, that's something to, rather darker color, so that's something to consider. One of the things that I would do, this is what I was getting at, was I might go through, and this might get a little bit heavy because it's a huge document, but you would go to your magic wand and turn off contiguous, so that way it's going to just pick up this color wherever it is on the canvas, and make a selection. This might take a little longer. And I am going to increase the tolerance on this. It was 5. Let's do 25. And maybe grab that there and see if that... Okay, yeah, that'll work. You see how that's grabbed these regions of light and dark. So then what you can do is you can turn this into a new layer here. So one way to do this, just to organize it, rather than just doing a new layer, we'll do a new fill, and we'll just make this like a really bright color so that we can see what's going on. Okay, and then we're just going to go through and repeat this process. Okay, so make this selection. We'll do what do we do? New fill layer, solid color. Okay, hide that. Let's go with I don't know, maybe these greens for the grasses. And what we're doing is we're separating these out, and then we can add some effects to them to make them appear as if they're brush strokes with like a physical space to them. So let's do another one here. Solid color. Go red. And you can keep playing with this until you get it, you know, just right. Like if you want to zoom in on something, you know, hold shift and grab that color or something, you know. But actually this looks half decent in what it got. So we'll go back full screen here. Then we'll go layer, new fill, solid. We'll go blue. And then maybe the last thing we grab these oranges. And same thing, new fill color. Purple. Okay, so we turn all those on. That's something, isn't it? Alright, so here's what you do. Let's start with this one, the first one that we grabbed. We're going to go to Effects, Trap Shadow. We have a global light. You can move this. I would slightly get it off to the side. Lower your distance. So you're getting just a little bit of an edge here. And you could do multiply so that it actually, you know, it relates to the color below it. Actually, I think if we do overlay might not be the best, but we'll give it a go. And then we actually kind of we make it darker, but not super dark. That way, if the color below it is light enough, it can overpower it, and that adds another feeling of depth. Let's see if any of the other blend modes work better in that regard. Okay, I think overlay is a good one. Soft light, that might be okay. Let's do overlay. Okay. So we've got that in. Now we'll do an inner shadow. And this one we're going to do this will do screen. We'll set this to a neutral gray. We have the opposite direction here, so this is going to add a little bit of an edge onto that paint, and then we can add some noise here, and then bring it down. Okay, so we hit OK. Now we're going to go to our fill. We're going to remove our fill. That's that yellow. And we're going to see how this is affecting those brush strokes. And we might just lower the opacity in general. Here. Now let's take that layer effect. And of course we could tweak this a whole lot more if I were well, I guess we can tweak it a little more. We have a little bit of time. We'll lower the size there. We want to have some variation to this so that it's not just this linear edge on the bottom there. So that's where the contour, the noise, all that kind of stuff helps us out to get that a little more variable. Do we want screen? Do we want to try some of the other ones? Let's go. We'll go with that. Why not? I could think of a few reasons, but we're just going to do it anyway. Okay. So that's opacity at full, opacity lower. So you see what we're doing here is we're taking that value range, and we are trying to make it look as though it is a separate painted layer. So I'm gonna make all these other layers visible, but we're gonna take their fill down to nothing. And we're gonna add these layer effects to all of them. Okay, and of course you can dial it back. You don't have to go 100% on these. But there were a couple paintings that I took to print and took this approach to it. And that way, when you're looking at it closer on the canvas, when it's printed, it just feels that much more alive and like tactile, the strokes feel like they're have a physical thickness of paint, Okay, so that's going to do it for tonight. Let me zoom out all the way here. And we could grab this whole stack here. And Control G. So this is the, let's call this the refinement. And then we'll call this down here the work group, because that has all of our layers separated, should we need them. So we'll hide the work group. And if we want to switch these out, see, how does that change affect it? It's not going to be 100% when you're zoomed all the way out, because Photoshop is going to be making some calculations. So in order to really see what that's like, you either need to zoom all the way in, or you need to flatten this layer. See, that's the difference that it makes there. So actually, let's go ahead and flatten our refinement. merge. And then when we compare this to our work group, it won't look so extreme. So here's our work group, here's our refinement, and then here was the way that Photoshop blended it before. So it's slightly different in its interpretation. So this is actually burnt in at the pixel level. Okay, that'll be it for tonight. Thank you for joining, and I hope you enjoyed it, learned something, and of course, as always, we're painting on your own projects, because I think that's for me, that's the most enriching thing. The best way to learn, and it's the best takeaway when you leave a time with other artists or any kind of I don't really consider these instructional, but we do get talking on the topics. So for me, it's always best to be able to try something on the canvas right away. So hope you were able to do that tonight. And also, I'll be wrapping up stuff for Fantastic Tanks for the Christmas push. If you're interested in picking up a tank, I'm going to update the website probably tonight after this live stream, if not early in the morning. And I'll get the new tanks up there. And if you've been interested in picking one up, go ahead and check that out. And one of the major pushes right now that we're hoping for is to get monthly supporters. And those would be people that are interested in seeing the project grow and helping us get it off the ground. And of course there are perks for that, but primarily it's kind of a grassroots effort to get this thing launched, and do it in a way that is kind of, I would say, product direct from the artist to the consumer. So instead of trying to build up a Kickstarter or some kind of method of approaching this that is full of promises, I kind of want to just make the things and get people interested in that, and sell those direct to people so that they can interact with them. And I know it's going to be a slower process than trying to crowdsource it up front, but that just seems to be the way that seems to be the right way to do it for this project. So if you're interested in that, go check that out. That's fantastictanks.com, and we're building that up and building up our subscriber base for that. And if you wanted to get something for Christmas, if you're in the continental U.S., if we ship it by Friday, which is it's only 2 days left, but if we ship it by Friday, the post office tells us it should arrive before Christmas. So if you've been thinking about it, now's the time to do it. All right, thanks for sticking through the sales pitch, and seriously though, I would really appreciate if you check that out. Thank you for joining tonight, and have a good night.